industry in COP27. The 3-hour-long session will see the opening address by Secretary Shri Sanjay Singh. Shri Sanjay Singh is an Indian Administrative Service officer with a long career in the civil service and a wide-ranging experience. He has been steering the ministry towards growth and development of the steel sector while leading the decarbonization effort of the steel sector. With his visionary and pragmatic approach, I now invite Shri Sanjay Singh to give his opening address for this session.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar. As aptly summarized by Neha in one line about the steel sector, that's something we can't live without, and the challenges which confront us in this sector. Pertaining to India, now we are into the 75th year of our independence, and we are moving towards 100 years. This 75 to 100 years time span, according to our Prime Minister and all of us, is the Amrit Kal. So during these 25 years from now, my Prime Minister has provided us a broad framework that we have to become a developed nation. India is a vast country. We know about it, with vast resources and a driver of innovations and development, the way industry is developing, and we are driving, whether we from within the country or outside as well. So for these 25 years, to be a developed nation, what does it entail? It entails, number one, our infrastructure becomes world class. For making an infrastructure, having an infrastructure of that nature, there is need, an imminent need, to consume more of steel. Steel is present everywhere. 60% of it in India is used in construction and housing sector. Then capital goods, a large proportion of steel is used there, automotive. So this 60% which is used in infrastructure and housing, this is the driver of our entire infrastructure plan and whatever we have conceptualized. India is going to spend, and right now spending, around $7.5 trillion every year on infrastructure. In a year or so, we will be around $10 trillion a year. So it would mean that what kind of growth we are foreseeing. But this is the immediate run. Short time frame, immediately we require this kind of a framework. To be developed, I mentioned only one dimension of that. That is the more consume. But along with that, our Prime Minister has also provided us a detailed guidelines. How does industry generally and steel sector particularly should move? One of his statement, as all friends from India would remember, on 28th of October, my friends from ArcelorMittal are there. What he specifically mentioned during his address, we need to develop technologies for carbon reduction and carbon capture and utilization. That's point number one, which was specified. Another point which was highlighted was need to move towards circular economy. So this is the kind of a roadmap we have in front of us, and on this we are moving ahead. And these initiatives are being driven by our friends from the industry. We are a marginal player in the government. We provided them them facilitation and a platform where all of us can collaborate. So that collaborative framework which we have in place, and mixing learning and connecting with all of with research and development outfits, with industry, with other similar kind of mindsets who are engaged in reducing carbon footprints. Along with that, also have a vision of taking India towards 100 years of our independence, which is the Amrit Kal. So, but how are we going to do it? I mean, that's a challenge in the steel industry. You would recollect what my Prime Minister said at Glasgow. 2070, net zero carbon emission. 500 gigawatt of renewable energy power generation by 2030. 1 billion tons of carbon reduction by 2030. So these are the three big things which we are working on in partnership with the industry. And we are working in a holistic manner, in an ecosystem which everybody is contributing. Rather than only steel industry working towards that, it's an that's why I said holistic ecosystem where R&D is there, R&D institutions are there. Various verticals within the country comprising different sectors, whether it's a renewable energy sector, research and development, industry, Ministry of Environment and Forest, all of them together. I mean, we are working towards that. As a result of what is happening? We are moving towards leadership position in producing electrolyzers in time to come, in a very, very short time frame. I mean, recently there was a number which caught my imagination, my eyes. That was like being available in our country much before that, from 25 to 30. I am visualizing that this might happen. There is a very, very strong eventuality of this happening. Industry, all the industry players which are here from the Indian Steel, they are going to provide us information about what they are doing individually towards decarbonizing, and their efforts are humongous. One of our steelmaker, they are going to present to us how they are going to use 100% renewable energy in steel making. Another steel maker is going to present to us what all they have done, are doing, and what is the medium-term and and short-term and medium-term plan towards carbon capture utilization, coal gasification, and so on. So these are big activities which we are doing within the country, and towards this, a lot of effort is being made towards research and development. I am a great believer in strength of technology and disruptions. We can't foresee what is going to happen. I'll say 4 to 5 years beyond. The manner in which technology is growing. And within the next 5 years, we are going to see the era of quantum computing. We cannot even visualize what is going to happen. New materials might come in. They might provide us some kind of system where a lot of effort in direction which are moving. I mean, that something totally different might come up. So disruptions are going to happen. I'm very optimistic about reduction in carbon emission, that growth is going to happen, and it is going to happen with, I'll say, green steel or whatever minimum level of carbon footprint are there in the steel making, but at because that's what steel industry is all about. But this is going to be our future, and we are going to move towards this. So these are a couple of things which I just thought that I'll just draw your attention to, because by 2040 India has to be a 40 trillion economy. We are moving towards that. Towards that, we require a lot of steel, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of world-class infrastructure. But along with that, a developed nation, as our Honorable Prime Minister says, has to be a nation where no carbon footprints. So parallelly, all these things have to merge together, and as a whole, we are going to, with industry, research and develop institutions, government, all together, we are going to achieve this goal. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
The Indian steel industry in India is really following the umbrella of visions set by the Prime Minister of India. And let me repeat, the Honorable Union Minister of Steel, Mr. Sindhya, in fact, one of the meetings when we met him on 14th July at Steel Room, he said that collaboration is okay, but I am partnering with you. I want to partner with the industry. So that was a very big sort of appreciation for us, the industry, to really see how we can really partner with each other and see what the goals of the carbon decarbonization can be achieved, and what are the other issues that also can be taken care. So our industry is a responsible industry, and they really are keenly looking towards what they will be doing towards decarbonization. Ultimately, it is the greenhouse gases has to be reduced, climate change has to be taken care. Otherwise, you will see what are the climate changes are happening all over the globe. I'll just sort of now, with this, I'll request Mr. Ankan Mitra from Tata Steel to say what exactly they are doing in Tata Steel to see how we can reduce the carbon emissions in the steel industry. Mr. Ankan Mitra, please.
Good morning, everyone. Very good morning to Secretary Sir, Additional Secretary Ma'am, Neha Ma'am, and the August gathering over here. It's my proud privilege to present on behalf of Tata Steel our decarbonization pathway and efforts that we are making on the ground. So to begin with, we as a company have a vision of being the global steel industry benchmark as well as far as value creation and corporate citizenship is concerned. And under this, we had 4 buckets of environment, health and safety of employees, the community around us, and governance, much before the parlance of ESG came into being. And we had policies around all these aspects: the environment policy, the climate change policy, biodiversity policy, energy policies. And after the adoption of the ESG framework, we have identified all our material issues, and we have embedded them in our short, medium, and long-term strategies, which we call our business objectives and strategies. And we want to assume the leadership in sustainability. The key enablers, as far as our sustainability journey is concerned, where our carbon footprint is currently the best in all the geographies that we operate in, and the long-term decarbonization roadmap that we have adopted is in fact aligned and better than the national goal of 2070. We have decided and we have taken an ambitious target of going for decarbonization or net zero by 2045 as an entire Tata group. From the Tata Steel perspective, the key enablers that we have identified for this decarbonization drive is adoption of the best available techniques, maximizing scrap use in the conventional blast furnace BOF route currently, use of alternate reducing agents in the blast furnace like natural gas, hydrogen injection, greening of the power mix, of course, and then subsequently trying out new technologies like hydrogen and natural gas-based DRI, HYSERNA, CCU, and CCS, along with our conventional processes. We are also thinking about scrap-based growth in India. We have started our efforts with the announcement of a new electric arc furnace-based steel plant of 7.5 lakh tons per annum at Ludhiana. in Punjab, entirely based on scrap, and on green electricity, which we are in talks with different utilities to power this plant. So with all this, we have, as part of our strategies, we have tried to make objectives for different horizons of time, the 3 time zones being the near term, that is 2025, slightly medium term, that is 2030, and of course our goal of net zero by 2045. And we have identified the enablers as well as the abatement contingent program, the help that we seek from the government of India. By 2025, we have a very measurable target of going below 2 tons of carbon dioxide per ton of crude steel. By 2030, we plan to bring it below 1.8 and ultimately reach our net zero target by 2045. As we can see in the slide, the initial near-term 1.8, rather 2 target is based on energy and process efficiency measures, upgradation of the existing facilities with more efficient ones, and expansion with the best available techniques I have talked about. The medium term would be based more on injection of gases in the blast furnace, increasing the H2 and natural gas mix in the blast furnace, and also bringing in technologies around carbon capture and utilization. And finally, the growth in India is going to be driven in the 30 to 45 term by hydrogen-based techniques and deeper decarbonization techniques, which we plan to adopt well prior to 2045 so that we can achieve the 2045 goal of net zero. From the government side, we would be looking at active implementation of the national carbon market so that in the near term we have a $10 to $30 price zone for carbon, and post 2030 somewhere in the region of 40 to 100, because that is going to catalyze the efforts of the steel industry that most of the players are taking and result in actual actions on the ground. And we would also be looking at market for green steel and defining of the taxonomy of green steel so that all these efforts around the steel industry sort of converge and form into firm steps being taken on the ground. Over the past 1 year, we take pride in saying that we are continuing to deploy industry-leading solutions to reduce carbon footprint. We have commissioned the first carbon capture pilot plant in Jamshedpur, which is capturing carbon from the blast furnace gas. And we have also started our pilot program of injecting coal-bed methane in one of our blast furnaces, which has been successful, and we plan to scale it up across all our blast furnaces, which is also reducing our carbon footprint. Further, also, we became the first signatory amongst the steel players of the Sea Cargo Charter, and also deployed the first biofuel-powered ship for steel transportation, because we are mindful of the scope 3 emissions over and above the direct emissions. So this is in a nutshell what, as Tata Steel, we are doing as a responsible corporate citizen, and we are trying to take the decarbonization journey forward. Thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for the opportunity. Thank you, everyone. Do we go for the video now?
I'll just see that the questions we can give later on when the all presentations are done. I think that will be better. So thank you, Ankan. Let me invite Mr. Prabodh Acharya, Head of Sustainability of JSW Group. And we are going to hear from him what exactly JSW Steel is doing for the carbon reduction. Please, welcome. Presentation, if you come, you have to slide it there.
Thank you. Coming down. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's really my privilege today to say what, as a leading Indian steel player, how we are trying to grow with reducing the emissions. And I completely agree with Madam Neha telling that steel growth is necessary, but emission growth is not desirable. And let me give my perspective on how. And we believe and recognize the fact that we need to grow with responsibility. And how do we do that? See, first of all, we do not see climate change in isolation. So we look, this has to be managed as a system which is very interrelated and interconnected. And that is where we have identified 17 key focus areas. All are supported with respective individual detailed policy commitment. I just want to highlight here the policy commitment is a contract between the business and the civil society, and that we have to honor. And that is where all these 17 areas come together to achieve the climate change mitigations, which is a focus, but adaptation is one of the part. We have been informed by all available international standards while developing these policy commitments and the framework to achieve our journey, which is overseen by the board themselves. And we are keeping all the stakeholders informed periodically, not only on financial indicators, but all non-financial performance, including what we are doing in the climate change perspective, on a regular basis from last 5 years in a form of integrated report. We don't look at financial only, we look at holistically. Now with that, let me give specifically a focus on what we are planning to do in the climate change mitigations and adaptation part, because that's in the top of our agenda. And you could see, we know what we could do now. And I completely agree with Mr. Singh's comment that you never know what future has stored for you. We absolutely sure that we can reduce our emissions more than 40% by 2030. We have 8 years to do that. So we are clear what we need to do. But we anticipate with our current knowledge, sir, that we can possibly reduce another 60% by 2050, but that can change as things progresses. We are serious about it. We have allocated $1.4 billion to achieve our stated objective by 2030. And we are partnering, networking with all technology suppliers and leading them, probing them how we can improve. Now let me give example what we are doing and what is our plan to how do we look at. Although you see the time frame looks up to 2070, but I would like to see that our plan is to work in 3 phases. The first phase, what we could do with our existing technology and existing assets. And second phase, how we can deploy the breakthrough technologies, which is mostly green hydrogen, carbon capture and utilization. So I want to focus on the utilization part. And in the third phase, the remaining emissions we can abate. And that is where I want to give one example where we are working on our existing assets, how we can sweat our assets by efficiency improvement. You all know IA also has projected that efficiency improvement is going to be a major lever currently in this decade to reduce the emissions. So we are analyzing each machine by machine and identifying the opportunity how we can improve the efficiency of each of those with the existing technology without being much bothered what the technology store for in future. And we have estimated that approximately 9 million ton of emissions we can reduce in the existing technology, working with what we have. You all know it is the steel industry is capital intensive and we have invested money, it cannot be taken out now. The question is that how we can improve it. The other part, what we are trying to do now so that we can scale it up, but mostly we are tentatively up beyond 2030. 2 aspects, which I think Secretary Saab already has focused, but I want to give examples. 2. One is on green hydrogen. We are one of the pioneer in leading the public sector in Indian hydrogen associations. I can tell you also very soon we'll have the first green hydrogen project in one of our operations, which we are scoping, working very seriously. We have a large team working on it. So it will come soon. That is one part. And we all understand green hydrogen is going to play one of the important role. I am not telling that this is the only solutions, but this is going to be one of the important solutions going forward. The other part, which my colleague from Tata already has stated on the carbon capture and utilizations, we are operating 100 ton per day carbon capture utilizations, and that is running successful. Now we know how to manage it, and we know that how to reduce the cost. Now the question is that when we can scale it up. And that also we are working seriously with different ministries and different stakeholders, that what are the utilization opportunities and how we can reduce the emissions in other sectors by this initiative. Other important thing what we are doing now is to phase out thermal coal. Our aim is to phase out thermal coal by 2030. That means all our steel plant will operate in complete 100% renewables. We have already implemented 225 megawatt of solar. It has already started feeding to our steel plants. And in a year or two, it will be 1 gigawatt will be completed. So we are hoping even by 2025, a large proportion of our thermal coal will not be necessary and it will not be used. So this is going to remain a key focus, and I think energy transition, if energy is the main reason of the climate change, it has to be solution for climate change also. The other aspect is the adaptation part. So that is also we are not losing focus. And the biodiversity management, it's not about managing biodiversity, it's also a good adaptation, and we are hugely working on mangrove restorations that also becomes a sink and helps in improving the livelihood of the people around. So that is one part. Quickly, I will also turn to another important issue that will drive decarbonization in steel sector, where we are focusing on this circularity, and it's playing big. It's not only that we all know whatever comes out from steel industry are all used, 100% used. Nothing is a waste, nothing goes waste. And that helps in decarbonizing many other sectors. We have good example, but one of the example which I will showcase, there's a 3-minute video if I get time to run it, is that how we are also managing waste from other sectors. That is plastic, which is such a nuisance, and that we are injecting and using in our steel industry. So we are not only becoming a solutions for the civil society and the problem, we are also reducing carbon emissions by doing that. So I'll run that, but before that, let me quickly take steel industry's decarbonization in the medium term cannot be complete without increasing the material efficiency. And that is where we are seriously working. I know my colleagues from other companies are also working, and these are the examples where we are focusing on producing high-grade steels that can reduce the specific consumptions, and that will drive decarbonizations. So with that, let me just run the video if somebody can afterwards. Okay, right. So I think possibly I'll stop here, and I'll be happy to have interactions for going forward. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to ISA and the Ministry of Steel to project what JSW is doing responsibly and planning to grow responsibly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabodh Acharya. I think you have given a good key example that using of plastics in blast furnace injection. I think that is something key sort of takeaways from your presentations. And material efficiencies has been an ongoing process in the Indian steel industry. Maybe be it was water consumption, electricity consumption, energy consumptions. I think this is an ongoing process, and now we are focusing more on the material efficiencies, as Mr. Acharya has said. With this, let me invite Dr. Mukesh Kumar from, he is the advisor, GSP Group. He will be presenting for Jindal Steel and Power Limited. Mr. Kumar, please.
Good morning to all. Actually, Jindal Steel Power Limited, when we started our journey, we started with one principle, that is SDG goal number 12. That is called responsible production and responsible consumption. And when we were looking for SDG 12, we were looking what natural resources we are having in our country so that we can become a responsible producer in the iron and steel industry. And we should plan our processes, our targets as per that only. And in 2014, JSPL has become the first company in the world where they have utilized a different type of technology that is called coal gasification technology. So in coal gasification technology, because we were knowing we are having constraint, we don't have natural gas available in plenty, but coal we are having. But when we are using coal, we should use it in a responsible manner. And that time we planned in 2014, 100%, again I'm repeating, 100% carbon capturing must be there, sir. And that facility has been planned with 100% carbon capturing facilities. And today we are capturing around 2,000 tons per day of carbon dioxide of 98.5% purity carbon dioxide, sir. So this is our footprint in India. We are producing around 9.6 million ton of steel, and we are an integrated producer having own coal mines, own iron ore mines, and other things. So if we see our pillars, we are working basically on 4 pillars. First is carbon CO2 minimization. Second is CO2 avoidance. Third is carbon circularity. This has become our punch point. We feel that carbon dioxide, everybody says, is a bad, but if we can ensure circular economy of carbon by converting carbon dioxide into carbon monoxide or methane, then it can reduce requirement of additional coal and additional fuel in the steel making, and that can continue to grow. And last is carbon capture and utilization. Whatever you cannot do, that you should put it. Whatever Honorable Secretary Saab has told that our Honorable Prime Minister vision is twofold. Number one, that carbon capture utilization is to be there, and second is the circularity is to be there. So both the things we have put in our punch point, and these are some of the areas where Jindal Steel and Power Limited is working. If we see that GSP, on 3 things, as I mentioned, we are working. Number one, syngas utilization. So as I mentioned, we are having around 55% hydrogen in syngas, and that syngas is being used. We know that gas route is the transition ultimately for our hydrogen economy also. Tomorrow, if we want to use 100% hydrogen, then it can be easily converted by slightly retrofitting of our existing facilities. Second is natural resources. Our major focus is, this is what we are saying is scope 3 emissions. What we want to use, domestic resources, so that scope 3 emissions also can be minimized, and to the extent possible, we should use maximum domestic resources, whether it is iron ore, whether it is coal, whether even it is a low-grade coal, but we should try to put something in a manner we can utilize those things. And thirdly is the recovery of byproducts. Because when we are using coal, lot of byproducts comes, and if you can ensure 100% recovery of those, so scope 3 carbon emission can be reduced in other industry also. So this is a video we will present later on.
Gasification technology simplified.
So,
the first
this
step
is a
is
1 minute.
gasification.
So if
Coal is first fed into a coal washery unit and then into a gasifier, wherein steam, oxygen and coal react to make raw synthesis gas. The second step is cooling and cleaning of the gas. The syngas is cooled and cleaned to remove other gases and particles, leaving pure syngas and other co-products. The final step is direct reduction of iron. The syngas is used as a reducing gas that gets passed through the turbo expander and heated for its better utilization in the process. Iron ore is fed into the mid-rack shaft, with reducing gas entering the furnace from the middle section. Iron oxide reacts with the reducing gas to produce sponge iron and carbon dioxide. The CO2 produced is passed through the scrubber and gets reused, creating a much lower environmental impact, while the sponge iron is further processed to make steel. JSP has built the world's largest coal gasification plant in Angul, Odisha. India's dream of becoming a net zero emission nation is important to JSP, and the company is honored to be part of this transformational journey.
So another thing what we are doing is, all the electric arc furnace we are converting into zero power furnace. In zero power furnace, what we are doing is, whatever DRI we are making, we are taking something from the hot metal in the blast furnace, and instead of using electric energy, we are using carbon present in the hot metal, and through oxygen lancing, we are converting this DRI also into the steel. So around 0.5 to 0.6 ton of carbon dioxide, which could have been used through electrical energy use, because we are having thermal grade, that also is eliminated here and is saved here. Similarly, this is a zero power furnace. This is all the recoveries, as I mentioned. We are recovering from the carbon, whether it is phenol, amine, ammonia, sulfur, all those things. Those are reducing our scope 3 emission in this circuit. Now we are working on carbon utilization with a number of collaborators like Lanjatech, CRI, Halda Top Show, and we are looking for international collaboration also in these areas wherever we can go and do this thing. Thank you very much. And in addition to this, we are working with Indian Research Institute also to develop carbon indigenous technology for carbon dioxide conversion into carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide conversion into ammonia so that both can be utilized in the steel making. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. In fact, zero discharge from the plants is one of the slogans which is being it's been promoted, propagated by all. In fact, it is in the mining sector also they believe in zero discharge. So I think utilization of the, what are the byproducts, I will not call it waste because it is a waste to wealth story basically. So it is being used by the industry, and that also helps in reducing the carbon footprints because the material consumptions, material utilization will be proper with that. Let me now invite Mr. Vaibhav Pokarna from AMNS. He is the head of sustainability in AMNS India. Yeah, Mr. Pokarna, please.
Thank you, sir. Respected Secretary, sir, Additional Secretary, the Director, and the people in the gathering. Thank you for inviting us. So, without doing further ado, I will quickly run through the presentation. So, AMNS India is the daughter organization of ArcelorMittal and Nippon Steel. It came into being in 2019. So, we are, if I give a brief snapshot, the health and safety is our topmost priority. That is the first and foremost thing. And we have been continuously contributing to the economy of the country. We are almost 22 million lives have been touched with our operations. 60% of our workforce is locally available, and we have a target of increasing the female ratio by up to 25% by 2025. Going very swiftly through the, so we have operations all across India. We are majorly, but our main facility is in the western part with 8.6 MTPA facility. This also houses a DRI facility, which is natural gas based. So in that aspect, in the carbon aspect, we are among the best in India because of our DRI facility. And we also have strategic location of sea base. So therefore, our scope 3 emissions in transporting of raw material and products is minimized due to the sea route. We have also a strong expansion plan from current 7.4 to around 30 MTPA by 2030 with a dedicated focus on decarbonizing. One of our major levers is phasing out of the more emitting Corex process in the near future in the expansion. And also, since we have a DRI facility, our past performance is quite good. We have been able to reduce our intensity by 33%. And even in future, we have got focus of increasing the DRI production and also the renewables. We are going to go almost 100% renewables in by 2030. All of our operations, as JSW also said, we will also be embarking on 100% renewables by 2030. And the 4 pillars for achieving decarbonization, which we are focusing on in the medium term, are the process optimization, the scrap utilization, by scrap and this fuel substitution, the injection of natural gas and hydrogen in our blast furnaces. So these are the 4 pillars, and fourth is renewables. One of the examples that we are focusing on right now, we have collaborated with Greenco to establish a 1 gigawatt renewable facility in Andhra Pradesh It is also unique of its kind because it is having hydro as the storage capacity, not just the conventional battery mode, but we are having solar, wind, and hydro as the storage capacity. And with that, we'll be off taking roughly around 50 megawatt of round the clock renewable power, which will be utilized to cater to around 20% of our power requirement at Hazira. And this is going to be further scaled up to around 10 gigawatt by 2030. So this is in a nutshell what we were talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaibhav. I think yours is basically gas-based DRI facility you have. I think that gives a lot of advantage for the carbon emissions reduction. Let me invite Mr. A.K. Singh, Director Technical from Steel Authority of India Limited, one of the industry under the public sector, that is the government-owned industry. And they are the Maharatna, what we have in the Indian parlance. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Respected Secretary, sir, Madam, and again, sabhi ko namaskar. Being the on the behalf of this steel team of India, Secretary, sir, we assure you that we are committed for net zero carbon reduction in steel making with every team, Tata, JSW, ArcelorMittal, and of course Shell. Because we believe that we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Indian iron and steel sectors is a mix of old and new technology. So it's a big challenge, in particular the SAIL, where we have started our furnace and plant in 1960. We have the blast furnaces and BOF route, and most of this route is being followed all over the world. And in India, this blast furnace and BOF route is making the steel in the range of around 50 to 60%. So one part is that how we will upgrade our old technology, existing blast furnace which are running in the years from 1990 and 1980s. And secondly, these furnaces which we are going to have today, even whatever the expansion we are doing in India or all over the world, that blast furnaces we are doing latest technology, but still we believe that that is not the sufficient for the net carbon zero by 2040 or 50. So challenges before SAIL and or a steel maker is that we have to think beyond reduction of the carbon with the existing technology, best available technology, and slowly we have to shift over to green hydrogens and scrap-based technology. Sir, we have started the journey in 2005, and till now we have reduced the carbon footprint by around 20%. From here onwards, by the 2030, we have a plan to reduce the carbon footprint by around 40%. But beyond 2030, to coming to around less than 1, because this, as Secretary Saab has told, that situation and technology is changing very fast. So we have to work on the disruptive technology. And that is the challenge before the steel makers. For that, future we are going for the hydrogen, but availability of the hydrogen at the, I can say, $1, at the rate of $1 is big challenge for all of us. Today it is cost around $3 to $4. The production of, but we have the plan told by the Secretary, sir, that we are going to have a leader in production of electrolyzer. Once we are the leader of electrolyzer, then we can produce the hydrogen that can be used in the blast furnace starting from the 20%, 40% or 60%. That is a matter of discussions, and future will tell how much hydrogen we can use for the reduction of iron ore in the blast furnace. So in cell particular, I can say that we are working for upgrading the existing technology which are operating from the 80s, and at the same time we are going to have a latest technology in the greenfield area so that we can achieve our carbon footprint or carbon target as committed to the government or committed to the society. And second part, we are also working for carbon capture and storage. Our plant is situated in the eastern India, and I can say that ISCO steel plant, where we are getting the CBM from the CBM well, we have a discussion with the academia, IIT Bombay, and with the R&D center of SAIL, how to capture the CO2 from the blast furnace, transport it to the CBM well and storage it. And as per the study done by the IIT Bombay, with the support of the government of India, carbon storage can be done in Bengal region up to in the range of 3 to 4 gigaton. So SAIL, in future we are working for the carbon capture and storage in CBM well. I hope that if we are able to do this, and technology will tell, time will tell, but we are confident that after 2030, this technology of storage of carbon CO2 in CBM well will be also available. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. In fact, there was a Bollywood movie where the dialogue is what is should be in the movie. It was said entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. And for steel industry, it is technology, technology, and technology. And Secretary Sir has also said technology and its disruptions, they are one of the main which we'll have to look for decarbonization. I thank you, Mr. Singh. I'll request Akshita to run the videos with a low volume. I think it's a 5-6 minutes video. Let us run all the videos. Then we'll have question answer session so that it gives a good flavor to the program. Yeah, Akshita, you can please run.
A small change can have a big impact. Every change is triggered by a belief. And our belief in sustainability is changing how we work. This belief is translated into one of our key strategic objectives. We're aiming for holistic changes in everything we do.
The Indian steel industry in recent decades has shown phenomenal growth. JSW Steel Limited is one of the fastest growing steel plants in India and has adopted the best practices and technologies available to mitigate the adverse environmental impact. With the increasing use of plastics, its sustainable reuse and recycling has become a serious environmental challenge. Thus, there was an urgent need for developing novel, cost-effective and environmentally sustainable polymer recycling techniques. The research and development wing at JSW Steel Limited has been working on developing many technologies for sustainable recycling of various steel plant wastes. Their in-house pilot-scale trials confirmed the sustainability of using plastics in electric arc furnace as a partial replacement of coke fines. EAF utilizes coke fines to increase the forming behavior of its slag for stable arcing and reduced arcing time. A new technology to recycle plastics in electric arc furnace as a forming agent has been developed and implemented by JSW Steel. In this process, the plastics generated at various departments in steel plants are collected and shifted to the shredder plant, where all the mixed waste plastic is shredded to less than 5 mm in size in 2 steps of shredding process. These shredded plastic is collected in jumbo bags and shifted to steel making shop for injection into electric arc furnace. Low-density materials such as shredded plastics, paper, etc. tend to coalesce and form chunks or generate dispersed motion inside the holding vessel, resulting in slowing down or stopping material discharge into the conveying line. JSW Steel has developed a new pneumatic conveying system for low-density shredded and powdered materials without the use of large silos or dispensers. The fluidization jets help to swirl and fluidize the material in the vessel, reducing or eliminating bridging across the cone section and providing consistent flow into the line without jamming. This unique patented pneumatic conveying system, commissioned in March 2021 on the shop floor of SMS3 of JSW Steel's Vijayanagar works, conveys shredded plastic into electric arc furnace and injects 80 to 100 kilos of shredded plastic at every heat, replacing equivalent amount of coke fines. This process helps in reducing approximately 1,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions annually due to reduced coke fines usage, in addition to the reduction in usage of carbon-bearing materials. The project also resulted in annual cost savings of 1.97 million Indian rupees. JSW Steel strives relentlessly in developing innovative techniques in environmental protection and recycling methods in order to implement sustainable and eco-friendly systems, a teeny effort in protecting the earth for future generations. JSW, better every day.
Akshita, you have one more video, it seems? Yeah.
We are living in an age of remarkable progress.
No, next MNS.
We are living in an age of remarkable progress. And India, a $5 trillion economy in the making.
I think you
The
can just...
Indian steel industry
Akshita, I
in
think there's some
recent
problem.
decades has shown phenomenal growth. JSW Steel
No,
Limited
I think you can stop
is
this.
one of the fastest growing
Stop
steel
it.
plants in India and has adopted the best.
Okay. I think let me now invite questions. I think we should keep it very short questions. I think 1 or 2 questions or 3 questions from each company. I think anybody can start. I think I'll request you to pass on the mics. Any questions?
Hello, I'm Andy Purvis, World Steel. I just wanted to check the 2,000 tons a day carbon capture that was talked to. I think it was JSPL. What unit is that on? Is that on the Midrex unit or on something else?
Actually, it is from both the units. Midrex also we are collecting, and gasification also we are collecting. Yes, both the things we are.
Hi, this is Richa from Climate Catalyst. I wanted to ask Sanjay sir if the government of India has any plans to put in place green public procurement policies that can help the industry to move faster.
In fact, this is a chicken and egg conundrum. Definitely, green steel requires demand side interventions, and that would happen once we have some sizable amount of green steel available. Right now, we are working on formulating a definition from green steel, because it is going to green steel is one such item which would not have a permanent definition. With the reduction in the carbon footprints, the definition will also undergo transition. So definitely I can say when it comes to demand side intervention, they are going to be there.
So can I just add to that? That's a very interesting question you ask, Richa. And I think a lot of thought has been going on in the government in this regard. Secretary has been engaging, and that's why he was talking about the chicken and egg story. But when we talked about India's demand and the kind of growth that we are talking about, the amount of green steel that will come into production raises the question about how soon we can come here. When we go through the reports of even the G7 countries talk about producing only 25 million tons by 2030, what they would be calling green steel. You see, so first the taxonomy, and then the production of that taxonomy, and then the procurement. So therefore, the numbers that we are talking, if it's to be 25 million tons for the developed world by 2030, I think it's important that India plays its role, but needs to first get the production in order. Thank you.
Any other question from you? Please.
Good morning. I'm Pradnya Haldipur from the Institute for Sustainable Communities. We're an NGO that is very proud to be working in India. My question is for the esteemed gentleman of the steel industry here in the room. I think I only heard one of you specifically mention it, and the excellent Secretary Chowdhury notwithstanding. Is there a role for women in the steel industry?
I'd like to answer that, if I may.
And at what levels?
I think if ever anybody needs to be insecure, it's the men in the Indian steel industry. You see, currently at the ministry level, at the government and policy level, we had a lady secretary, we had myself and 2-3 other officers at senior level. We've had, in fact, more than 3-4. And now when we talk about steel production, our largest PSU, SAIL, is headed by Shoma Mandal, lady, who's in charge of steel and has immense sort of knowledge growth career in aluminium as well. And now even for our mining company, MOIL, for manganese mining, we have a lady in charge, Usha Singh. And these are just to name a few. So therefore, we often find ourselves, okay, I think JSW also wants to add to that. In fact, when we find ourselves going for delegations to international bodies, I find that it's only India which has nearly an all-women delegation. So, and here we have the young officers, Neha also, you know, so you see even the future of women in steel is definitely assured. So I assure you, India is doing well for women. Thank you.
And just to add, at the working level, at the factory level, 2 of our complete line are being run, all forced by women. And Mr. Jindal, who is the chairman of the group, has declared on 15th August that he would like to seek to run a complete blast furnace with women. So we welcome.
I think I'll add to that. I think it is ladies' world in India now. Don't worry on that. So I think anybody can come. You can come to India and settle down and join. There's no problem. In fact, there is one of the assembly lines is run by ladies only. So don't worry.
And I just add to that another point with Secretary Sir here, with due respect, even Madam Mrs. Gauri Singh, wife of our Secretary, she's heading ARENA, she's DDG of ARENA. So even in Secretary Sir also we see woman power right behind him supporting renewable energy.
Good you asked this question. I think if there are no questions, any questions? If there are no questions, I think let me thank all the audience and Secretary Sir, thank you very much. Madam, thank you very much.
So may I make a last comment, please? Just to the audience here, we would like to share with you that the presentations and the conversations that we've had by all the steel producers were actually from not Indian companies, but from the world's largest international best companies. All these companies have an international footprint, international production. They are MNCs of steel and doing good all over the world. And these companies that we've heard today are producing more than 60 million tons in India alone and are expected to grow and play a role of a nearly 70% production by 2030. So you are in good hands when you hear them talking about the kind of steps and measures that they are doing. I must confess that I am rather new to this engagement and conversations regarding this whole sustainability and the whole reducing carbon emissions. And a lot of literature that I had read in the past perhaps 6 months, I find that when we go through the presentation that and what we heard today, all the narratives that are being talked about in the world are all very much being tick-boxed by our steel producers. When we talk about, I mean, Secretary Sir mentioned that we have to decouple growth and emissions. We find that country is well on the path of growth, but fully focused on to reducing carbon emissions. All the measures here are all working towards that. Whether we talk about adaptation, whether we talk about circularity, we talk about technology growth, we talk about retrofitting possibilities, we talk about weeding out of the old and inefficient production facilities. Talking about renewable energies, producing hydrogen, carbon capture utilization, energy efficiencies, material efficiencies. I think in the presentations that you saw from our 5 companies, each of these tick boxes got tick marked. And I must also say that actually their measures are much more than what they were able to showcase in the 5 minutes that Neha actually allotted to them. So each one of them was actually allowed to talk only about one speciality area, and therefore they only spoke about one each. So each one of them does all that the others is also talking about. So it is all the others plus this is what I want to talk about. So therefore I would like to assure the audience here that the Indian steel industry is on the forefront of any technology adaptation, any technology adoption, and any disruptive technology that may come in future, ready to accept it. It's a very mature industry. And in fact, if we can say so, that in the fora that we talk often, there is a lot of apprehension about the kind of growth story that we are talking, but we always assure the audience that it's a very responsible growth. I think Secretary Sir has mentioned that these are our needs of the hours, and this is how we are conscious of what we need to do. And the industry showcased how they are actually sticking to the responsible path. Thank you.
Secretary Sir, I think your last word so that we can conclude the first session of this. If any last words from your side, then we can conclude the session and then start the new session.
Thank you. I mean, as Ruchika mentioned, 5 of the steel makers who are here today, their installed capacity is in excess of 80 million tons. So that's a large number. And they are, in terms of technology adoption, one of the most evolved and utilizing and using the best of technologies. Efficiency is the buzzword in steel making right now in India. I mean, towards that, industry is getting into a lot of automation. And of course, in the technical parlance, Industry 4.0. And with that, it's itself, the kind of decarbonization which can happen has also been projected to you by ArcelorMittal. So efficiency in the short run, carbon capture and green hydrogen utilization in maybe short to medium run. Initially, it was from medium to long run, but now that is what we are foreseeing, that there is a strong possibility with a kind of investment getting into that and electrolyzers, production facilities being created. So green hydrogen should be available in short to medium term. In fact, when I discuss and talk to steel industry in India, they say they are in readiness with all aspects to utilize, provided it is available at the right prices. I mean, they have that kind of technology adoption and adaptability which is available to them. So I can assure all the audience here that we are not only the biggest steel producer in the world, but also the most responsible steel producer in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think let me thank the Ministry of Steel for giving